What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the market so far, what news just came out that's very important, what you should be watching for on the technical side for Tesla and all these different tickers. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Now, this offer ends in just about 10 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market so far. So, looking at the market, right, we have this very, very nice looking accumulation structure on Tesla that has developed, and Tesla's still holding quite decently so far. But the question is, how will Tesla end up holding up as we test some critical levels, and how is it looking so far? So we're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about this news right here. So the initial jobless claims report came out at 207,000, very close to expectations of 210,000. The imports data showed a bit of a drop relative to what the previous report was, but still very close to expectations. Same thing with the exports data. And most of the data was aligned with expectations so far, except the challenger job cuts were actually a bit lower than expected. So that's pretty much it. Everything else was close to expectations. Nothing too horrible for the markets, nothing too great either. But when it comes to some important speeches for today, at about 9 o'clock a.m., we have Messer from the Fed giving a speech. This is going to be via Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time. Then at about 11:30 a.m., we have Barkin giving a speech. That's going to be very important as well. At around noon, we have Daly giving a speech from the Fed. And then at 12:15 p.m., we have Barr giving a speech. So we have a bunch of Fed speakers throughout the day giving speech after speech after speech. And this could lead to more volatility for the markets. So make sure you're ready for this and you're prepared for what's about to be said. Now, when it comes to news affecting the market was dropping many days in a row before we got some relief yesterday. And the question is, will the market continue on that streak, or is the market about to reject off the key resistance levels? Now we have something big going on. There's a new strike in town with more than 75,000 healthcare workers walking off the job on Wednesday at Kaiser Permanente, which is the largest national healthcare nonprofit organization. They're seeking more and more support because of the fact that the staffing shortages have left employees burnt out, according to their reports. There's also this news coming out that Google unveiled two new Pixel phones. We have the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro, which have new AI powered editing tools, which is pretty cool for them. That's pretty much it when it comes to big news, besides like more discounts from Disney at their theme parks. But, anyways, there's nothing insane coming out in the news so far. We do have some good news for Tesla investors, as Hyundai Motor has now adopted the Tesla EV charging station from 2024 in the US. And that's some good news for them, as this is going to bring in more revenue for Tesla and give them more and more control. Anyways, enough about the news. Let's talk about the charts. How are things looking? So, when it comes to Tesla, we have a nice accumulation structure, the Wyckoff accumulation. And if anything, this still looks in the direction that upside is possible, but we have to watch for this back test first. So could Tesla drop a little bit from here? Yes, it can. We're going to be watching this 260 support. If we lose this, there is strong support around this 258 to 257.5 area. Because we pump so hard, a smaller tracement would be completely normal, as it's doing right now. So we're going to be watching this 258 to 257.5 area and also 255 to see which one of these hold. And it's very probable that one of these will attempt to hold for Tesla. And it could try to bounce off of this and start pushing even higher later on as the days go on and try to fill the gap at 262.5, not to mention even 265 could come. But before we talk about any bounces, right, us pushing towards like 270 and etc., we have to get that back test. We have to see where Tesla ends up trying to hold. Because when Tesla pumps really hard like this, it can't just break through every resistance and just hold up forever. It needs to kind of like retrace a little bit, establish its base, and then, try to continue higher if it can. What's worth noting is that the 4-hour and the daily charts are looking quite strong on Tesla, so it's not looking too bad overall. It should retrace a little bit, but we're going to be watching to see where the buyers step in and where they try to get this thing to hold. So watch these supports very carefully. This thing could drop all the way down to 255 and still remain bullish and try to bounce later on. If it loses 255, then there is going to be a risk of more downside. So I just want to warn everyone about that key level. And so far, there is still potential for upside for Tesla. Now, as far as SPY goes, okay, we're going to be watching a very critical level right now. Looking at the chart, there are two possibilities. Either we kind of like break out from this resistance, or we come back down if we break below this white trend line, which is going to be our key support zone. So we tried to break out basically. We tried to break this green support becoming resistance, and we ended up rejecting, and now we're barely testing this white trend line as a support. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing get above this 425 area and start breaking out. If it manages to do so, achieve that a close above, that would be very nice for the bulls. If we're bearish, you want to see this thing end up retesting this trend line, breaking below 423.25-ish. If we fail around there, it has the potential to come all the way down towards like 422. And if 422 fails us, then we could come all the way down towards 420. So we're going to be watching this very, very carefully just to see which way this thing ends up breaking. And as of right now, it's looking a bit weaker, so we're going to be testing this resistance, which is now becoming support, very, very carefully. And we will see which way this thing ends up breaking. So this is going to be very, very key. It's looking a little weak right now, so I could see this breaking down a bit, but then we're going to see if buyers step in at 422 or not. If they don't step in, watch 420, then watch 418 below that. But for now, we're just going to be watching to see how it reacts to this support. We're just barely holding this support so far. And that's going to be very key for today. For the QQQ, we have something very similar going on. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing trying to get above not just 360, but 362, 361.69 basically. If we break that, this could turn bullish for it. If we pump it, kind of like reject off this, we could start cooling off. So if we break below 358, this is when this thing could turn a bit more bearish. If 358 fails us, then 356 is going to be on the table. As of right now, it's holding up quite okay. It's just barely at 359. So it looks like it's kind of choppy right now in the pre-market. It's very indecisive. So we're going to be watching which way it goes. Now, there's a possible cup and handle formation that could play out, but it's looking like this thing may kind of like sink first. But even if it establishes like a higher low, it's still possible it plays out. So I'm not going to count on anything just yet. I just want to be open-minded and let the price action decide which way the market goes. So watch 358 as a very important support on the QQQ. Let's see if this thing bounces off there or not. If not, 356 is on the table. We're going to be watching this carefully and we'll see how this thing goes. Nvda has a very important level ahead of it, because when you look at Nvda, we have this very strong or a decent looking uptrend from this white trend line acting as support. Now, Nvidia is barely holding 440. If it breaks below this, there's a risk of 438 to 437.5, and also a test of this white trend line at 436. If we break below this trend line, that's a bearish signal for Nvidia. Nvidia is going to be sinking towards this 430 area. 433 to 430 if we break below the white support right here. If we, come down here and we see buyers step in, then it could kind of like bounce off this and kind of hold up. And if we keep holding around these levels and start pushing, we're going to be watching this thing try to push for 450 if we either get a really nice bounce or if we just see buyers step in from the get-go. Now, right now, it's looking a bit more bearish. It looks like it's going to come down towards this like 440 area. Could break a little below that and retest 437, then try to bounce off that. But I just want to warn you all to watch this level carefully. It's going to dictate which way we move, especially if we break this white trend line or not. So that's going to be key for today. If we do kind of like come down and end up bouncing, you're going to be rewatching this 440, which is previous support becoming resistance, not to mention 442, 444, and then we have this key zone at 450 if we do get above 444. So watch these levels very carefully on Nvidia. Those are going to be very key for today. It looks like it could cool off a bit, but we're attempting to bounce. Apple's in the middle right now. It's kind of rejecting off this resistance. If we break and hold 174, we're going to turn bullish. We could see this thing push for 175 plus. If we break down and we kind of like hit this support at 172, we could just trade sideways between 172 and 173.5, go back and forth and back and forth. And if we break below 172, that's going to be bearish. We're going to see this thing come all the way down to 170. Now, right now, it's looking a little weaker. It looks like it's just barely holding 173. If that fails us, we can see the 172 is lots of sideways price action. We're going to be watching this very carefully. We're going to be watching to see how this thing ends up moving. And it's going to be very key for the future of this company, the future of the stock right now. Now, it looks like it could retest the 172s, but it may just retest this trend line, see buyers step in again, and just continue to trade sideways. So watch these levels very carefully. See if 172 holds or not. If we break below that, we turn bearish. If we touch it, we could try to bounce and trade sideways. If we break 174, we're going to turn bullish, but we're kind of in the middle right now, so it looks like it's just going to trade sideways, chop around. We could see a bit of downside before some buyers step in close to 172 for the time being. I think that's pretty much it for now when it comes to the main charts. Now I just wanted to quickly talk about a couple of other things. So the 4 hour is still looking strong on Tesla. Yes, Tesla could cool off just a little bit, but we're going to be wanting to see if the buyers could step in around some key levels as we have this accumulation structure that is still present. Tesla's still looking decent overall. It's completely normal for it to like react the way it did. We're going to be watching some other very important things, such as the VIX, which is kind of flat right now. It's very indecisive. We're going to be watching to see which way this ends up moving. The dollar of all things is actually down just a little bit, which is still favoring the. It's just favoring the bulls a tiny bit, but it's kind of flat, so it's not really doing much. It's kind of flat actually, so it's not doing way too much. Same thing with the 10-year Treasury yield. So the market's kind of indecisive right now. We're just going to wait and see which way these things move, and those are going to dictate how the market ends up moving. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully this was helpful for the people out there. I want the best for all of you. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you guys in the next video very, very soon. Thank you, and peace out.